Razor, appreciate you joining us this afternoon. How we doing?
What's up, gang? I'm great. I am really well. How about you?
We're okay. We were better before a 7-2 loss, not going to lie to you.
No kidding.
I thought there was a little momentum there, and then that just kicked momentum right in the cojones. And I want to start with Swayman. And I know he's not in net tonight, but he was in net, I believe, last time when he gave up 8 goals to the Jets. Mm-hmm. So my question is why are we seeing these games where you're putting up what they call in baseball crooked numbers, like these big numbers? Is it aberrational? Is it, I think it's 11 games with 4 or more goals allowed, but then you got those 6s, those 7s, and those 8s? Or is it the way the game ends? Does the bottom just fall out for him emotionally, competitively? How are we getting these really ugly Swayman lopsided games?
Well, a couple of them, to your point. This game, the one you referenced in Winnipeg, both games, they gave up 5 goals and 4 goals in the third period, respectively. There was also an empty netter in the last game against Buffalo. So atypically for the Bruins, or what we've seen at least for the last 12 or 15 years, and a lot of it has to do with the league, but also, where this team's at right now, or 52 games in the season, was those games, like Buffalo the other night, would stay 3-2. Their layers, their defensive structure, they would keep the game close. If they didn't win, it would be 3-2. It wouldn't turn into 7-2 as they open the game up. The other thing, too, we have to I don't think it can be talked about enough. It sounds like I'm making an excuse, but the reality is their 3 best defensemen were out of the lineup on Tuesday night. People will say, well, it was just the Buffalo State. Well, it's the NHL, and if you don't have your top 3 defensemen, the game gets hard, and it's easy to be inconsistent. You can have great efforts like you did last week, but to do it on a nightly basis without your best players, it certainly is much more difficult, and having Charlie McAvoy back in the lineup tonight should help that.
Hey, Razor, I'm just curious. I just kind of equated it to baseball pitchers, and you might just tell me I'm an idiot. But when comparing like a goalie that's just kind of giving up goal after goal, is there a point where you're like, dude, I wish they'd take me out? I mean, I've given up 5. It's not my night. Why are you keeping me in and I get 2 more scored against me? Is there ever how does that work? I mean, does the coach talk to the goalie and just say, how you feeling? What, leaving a guy in after he's given up, 6 goals, it seems like that's, maybe not the best move, or that could create tension. Is that something that is a thing in the NHL?
Well, certainly. I mean, there's too many times in my career I got pulled after the first period, giving up 5 goals, and talking to you guys because of it. But in these situations where it's in the third period, you're not taking any.
Okay.
You kind of got to ride the horse all the way through the finish line. When these third period goals go in, as a backup, your role is to go in and be ready anytime. But to get thrown in with 8 minutes left in the third period is a real kick in the guts. That happened to me once, and I was not happy with my head coach for a week and a half, because it's just an embarrassing kind of thing to do.
Hey, Razor, I'm curious. Korpisalo's goals against average this season isn't that far off from where Swayman's is right now at this point. Swayman's at 3. He's at 2.7, but it feels like he might be a little steadier option now. Obviously, he's only started half as many games. How pleased have you been with Korpisalo's play, considering what we heard about him coming to town? And B, in the second part, do you think sometime soon Swayman can just snap out of it, or does a late start to the season, like he got, almost carry through the whole entire season?
Yeah, it is hard to snap out of it. But first, Korpisalo has been awesome, and exactly what I expected him to be. He had a tough goal last year in Ottawa. It was a terrible team in front of him. He had to play all the games. There was no relief, and there was just there was bad goals going in, but there was worse defense happening in front of him. He needed a perfect reset. He's got that here, and he's playing with good confidence. In relation to Jeremy, and it is hard to switch things on and off. I had a conversation this morning with one of my goalie buddies about it, and this is the big but, is get through to the break. He's going to play for Team USA, so he's not going to Mexico. He's not going on vacation. He's going to be here, but he's also not probably going to play, to be all honesty. It's going to be Connor Hellebuck, who we're going to see in Winnipeg tonight, and there's Jake Ottinger from Dallas. So those are probably the 2 first guys. So Jeremy's going to be able to be here, work on his game a little bit, have the Team USA jersey on him, be around the best players in the world. So I actually, if you get through the next 5 games, I think he has an opportunity to really reset, which you usually don't in an NHL season. So I think this break is going to be a big benefit to him for that.
Andrew Raycroft joining us here on WEEI Afternoons. Razor, if I Google Brad Marchand, all these trade stories come up from various places. Hockey News, New York Times, all over the internet. I know you've pushed back a little bit against this, but do you think there is any chance that Brad Marchand could be traded?
Yeah, no, I don't. Like less than zero. Listen, you could Google a lot of things, and there would probably be a lot of articles.
I'd be careful.
Things. Be careful. Don't do that on your
work computer.
Good advice.
Ken will be running down the hallway to come and get you. But that's the world we all live in. That's the social media part of things. It does sell. It's interesting, and it's just because it might be a whole nother story if the Bruins were literally the last place team in the league, and we're going and down that. But this just isn't the case. I really think this team still has a really good chance to make noise, and they're struggling at certain times, but they're right in the mix. So no, you're not trading the captain. You're just not trading Brad Marchand.
Hey, Razor, I'm curious what you think. I was reading a Paul DuPont article talking about Zdeno Chara maybe coming back as a role or having a role here with the team. That maybe he's going to be signed to help just kind of identify talent, whether that be draft trades, free agency, and also to be a resource for players and an advisory role that supports the players and the coaches. Just maybe your thoughts on that, and maybe the impetus for bringing Chara in. What do you think about that story?
I wouldn't look too much into the timing of it. I think that would be much more. The timing is much more dependent on Zdeno Chara finding time in his schedule between his kids and the hockey season, the minor hockey season, where I see him at the rinks 3 times a week, or just that. So I'm not reading anything into the timing. And then on the other side, if you have a resource like Zdeno Chara that's living here and a part of such a huge part of what this Bruins team is and what the identity is of this franchise, that you can use him as a resource in any number of ways, I think you jump at it. So again, I don't look too much into the timing of it, or I think that's strictly on Z's time. And this is again, like I said, if you can bring a Hall of Famer into your organization, you do that anytime.
Andrew Raycroft, the Razor, kind enough to join WEEI Afternoons here with Fitzy, Hart, and Johnson. So as I know the trade deadline is a few weeks down the road. However, how much longer would you say the Bruins have before they really need to decide, like, do we flip the switch and blow her up, or do we buy big and double down on this team? Like, how many games, how many weeks until they need to get into that decision?
Yeah, so you got 5 games here till the break. You're not going to decide after tonight. Like, you're going to get through these 5 games, and then I think, like the entire league, you're going to have a lot of general managers talking amongst each other because they're going to be bored. There's going to be just hockey, just 4 teams to watch for 14 days. I think they're all going to get on the phone and they're all going to kind of decide and measure each other up where they're at. So you've got 5 games here. Nothing's going to happen. And you'll really assess what your group is, what's available around the league, what other teams are doing around the league. And then you have the 10 days, 2 weeks out of the break. So I don't expect, if something happens, I think it's going to be more of a hockey trade like we saw last week between Rantanen, Colorado, and Carolina and Chicago picking up some money. I think if there's hockey deals, they're going to might get made here in the next couple of weeks, but I don't think teams are going to decide whether they're in or out until after this break.
Razor, I think in your Marchand answer to me, you said something about you still think this team can go on a run or make some noise. Give me the 3-step plan for what has to happen for that team, your vision, to actually take hold on the ice.
Yeah, get healthy, first and foremost. Get Hampus Lindholm back in your lineup. Again, McAvoy's back, Carlo's back tonight, but Hampus Lindholm's still a huge piece that you haven't had for 2 months. He's huge at moving the puck and helping with the offense from the back end. So getting healthy is step 1. step two is making a good move here at the deadline, recognizing and trying to identify a player that's out in the league that can help you while making your, whether it's a little bit more offense, another winger, another forward. If you can find that guy that helps your roster, that's step two. And then step three is having more consistent efforts out of the deadline, taking advantage of this reset and just finding a way to get into the playoffs. I can promise you the Toronto Maple Leafs are not going to want to see this team in the first round. It's a tough matchup for a lot of groups if they're healthy and if they can put it together. So it's not a lock, but it's certainly far from complete desperation on a nightly basis at this point. They can put this together.
All right, Razor, before we let you go, we have a one-day streak here of asking guests to predict what's going to happen in the game that night. Scal nailed a bloodbath last night.
He sure did.
Nailed it, 20-point win for the Celtics. So, what's going to happen tonight, Razor?
Yeah, and basketball, I could nail every one of those basketball games. The whole league is the easiest thing in the world to fix. The whole thing is a racket, that league. So but I'll still go up against Scal. I have no problem doing that. I see in my crystal ball, I see a 4-2 empty net Bruins win tonight.
Oh, I like it. Very specific. Andrew Razor Raycroft joining here for the first time on WEEI Afternoons. He'll join us each and every Thursday around 4:30. And if his predictions are right, we'll be very happy men. Thanks, Razor.
Thanks, Razor.